Welcome into If This Then What, where we connect the dots and explore the big what is shaping our world. Sydney, we are live. We're live.
Yes. That's wild.
Oh man,
Try not to look at that time counter in the top of the
you
screen.
try it. Oh gosh, because it's like it says it's red and bold, and it's like, oh man,
Live 52,
yeah.
53, 54 seconds.
To our 2,000 followers on Instagram, they just got a notification. Hi world. I don't know how there's 2,000 of you that's just gonna hang out with us tonight.
Do you pay people, Josh?
No, I don't, and I don't understand it. But as just some things. So we were preparing, Sydney. We were preparing for the show tonight, and I told you it's been a wild week, and I don't feel prepared at all. There's actually been some cool things that's happened this week, and like Gemini upgraded their platform. Like there's some like, is Gemini going to eliminate Photoshop? I've got an example of it, but like they added Notebook LM to like their base model of Gemini. So now you can make your podcast through the conversation that you're already having. They've done some cool things, and I haven't looked into, like, I've just seen the headlines. And I never want to give any type of news or information that's just the headlines, and so I was just like, man, I just don't feel like ready. And I got a notification that that University of Houston basketball team posted something, and I was watching it, and I had this like idea that I could potentially, so there's a narration that's going on. And I was like, man, if I was in charge of writing this speech, and I'm sure that this person, Jamal Shed, wrote the speech. I'm sure if Jamal Shed 1000% wrote the speech. But if I, Josh, was like, all right, how do I go about writing this speech? And so I'm watching this video, and I'm like chatting over here on the side. And I like took down my screen. I showed you what I done, and you're like, "Why don't we just record that?
Yeah.
Why aren't we just recording it?" And so then when I was recording it, I was like, "No, why don't we just go live?" So we're live, Sydney.
We are. We are.
Welcome everybody. If you have any questions at any point, shoot them into the chat, and we'll try to address them.
Cindy, and I can't see them, just so you know.
Okay. I will try
live, and you have to monitor those.
Okay. I see
might not want to fix it. You just monitor it.
Maybe I see that there are two people watching. Maybe they can post a comment, and I can just see what even happens. I don't even know what happens. That's really my problem.
Where does it go?
Where does it go? And they've already been like, I've commented twice already. And I don't even get to see it.
I have a personality treat for everyone, since whoever's live, the two people you said.
I can just see. There's two people watching.
So between the four of us, whenever Josh laughs while he's talking, he always sounds like Scooby-Doo. Raggy.
Don't laugh.
So between the four of us, that'll be our.
Why am I catching bullets at the beginning of the show right now?
Because we're live and I'm improvising, okay?
Sydney, I need psychological safety. Okay, you can't just be roasting me in front of our fans. Okay. So anyhow, so I thought it was a phenomenal phenomenal idea that we could just watch this thing. By the way, we're just gonna watch it together. The whole thing is so cool.
Good. And then it's really relevant. Our algorithm should be on point. Okay.
Yeah. and then we will try to see how close Gemini, or not Gemini. Oh, we could probably do the same post in Gemini, Grok, and ChatGPT,
And
and
see the different
see
responses. Okay, let's
the
tell them what
difference
the
out.
assignment is. What is it a video of?
Okay. So the video is, we are both University of Houston alumni, and the University of Houston has killed it in basketball for the last several years. And they just came out with a narrated hype video that is like narrated by our previous player.
Because we're about
So,
to go into
uh,
March Madness.
and while we're watching it, I want you to think of what would be the prompt that would make this narration. And so as we're watching it, like, I want you to think about what that prompt might be. Maybe take some notes down on your notebook, and we'll compare notes at the end of the video. So let's put this up here. That's not the thing I want.
Everyone else gets to see
Hey
the
guys.
infinity screen.
Hey guys, we're live, and now I've got to. This is typically where
No
we would
pressure.
say, "Listen, Linda, we need you to
Yep.
edit this out."
Yeah, some behind the
Linda's
scenes stuff while Josh tries to figure it out. We have some code words for whenever we are recording. One of them is
Yeah.
pineapple. This is where we need to stop and make edits. The other one is listen, Linda, because Josh's beautiful wife is named Linda, and sometimes she helps us with editing. And when we say listen, Linda, it's so she listens. And we have Holly here. Holly, who is Linda's best friend, who does not know anything about AI, so that
We're
sometimes we have
jealous.
to word things for her.
Mm. Okay, so I got the video up, and your assignment, Sydney, is to write your prompt by the time this video is up.
Okay.
And if you could do it in in the actual chat to ourselves,
Oh,
that
okay.
way I can just copy and paste into it. That would be very helpful. So let's go ahead and play this video.
Houston basketball. It's a household name.
Arguably the top defensive team in the country. This is the best shooting team.
Well, it's definitely the deepest team that
Kelvin Sampson has had.
had.
Pretty good formula to go deep in the
This is
tournament.
the team that I'm picking to cut the nets down in San Antonio.
Dominant, physical, tough. When you're constantly mentioned with these words, you have to bring intensity that no one can match and heart that no one can understand. In a culture where floor burns are a stat and crashing the glass is mandatory, you have to bring the heat. Once that Houston is on your chest, excellence is expected.
Into the front row, blocked by Douglas. Our right wing three, got it!
Fueled by our fans, we play for each other for one goal, for the city.
Into the hoop with a two-hand slam! OJ fires deep in his bag with a right-hand punch.
Go Cougs.
Okay. I've been fiercely over here typing. It is so difficult to do that while it is just like hype in your ears. Sydney, that gets I know we're not a basketball podcast, but that gets me going.
It's
That's
pretty hype.
that I want to go run through a wall now. I want to be part of that culture. So I have my prompt ready to go. And
I'm gonna have to text it to you because I don't have access to the chat.
Okay.
I need to set up my
That's
account.
You guys set up your account, Sydney. Okay. So text it to me and I'll throw it on there. But first, I'm going to let you read. I'm going to throw my screen up and let you read it while I move yours to. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do.
You'll get it down.
I know. I zoomed in on the wrong screen. Okay. So do you want to read my prompt and critique
Sure.
it?
Do you know about the hard-nosed defensive culture of the University of Houston basketball team? Do you know Jamal Sheed now in the NBA? I'd like to create a hype video written and narrated by him that hypes the team. Right, Jamal? Is it Sheed or Shed? I feel dumb
Sheds.
for asking that. Shed?
Nope, Shed.
Shed.
Yep.
Thank you, Jamal Shed's narration for the minute video. End with Go Cougs. Well, you put different detail than what I put.
Okay. Give
Should we
me
make a
kind of.
combination?
Well, I think what would be interesting is actually seeing what would produce with each each person's
Mm-hmm.
go about this. So critique me, like give me feedback.
I don't know how to critique you without giving you what I put.
Okay.
How would you?
Can you tell me what you believed my thought process was when I wrote the prompt? Feedback at all?
Well, I did tell it to do a 3-minute video.
Okay.
I would give it. I think it is good for me to talk because I wrote mine with my thoughts, and all my thoughts are based on what I thought was important, which is in my text. You know.
Gotcha. So I will do that prompt, and then
It could
I will.
also just be being very stubborn. So
Yeah.
Sharp. Is hard-nosed a real term of ours?
Say that one more time.
Is hard-nosed a real term of ours at UH?
Yeah,
I didn't know
I wouldn't
that.
say it's hard nosed. I would say that is my interpretation of the culture there.
Okay.
All right. So so they asked me what it means to be a cougar. It's not just about basketball, it's mindset, it's grit, toughness, sacrifice. It's who we are. In this house, defense ain't just a choice, it's our identity. Every loose ball, every rebound, every stop, it's personal. Because on this court, nothing is given, everything is earned. I wore this jersey, sweat and blood for this team, or sweat and bled for this team, fought for this city. I love that they included this city because that's like our
Yeah.
that's our for the city. And every single cougar after me knows that defense is our heartbeat. It's a fire inside us, which a fire inside of us, that's a Renew Couture, like fire in
Yeah.
your belly is like a University of Houston kind of theme.
Mhm.
Pushing us to be stronger, faster, tougher. We don't bend, we don't break, we lock in, clamp down, and dominate. So tonight, bring your heart, bring your fire, defend our house, show them what Houston basketball is about. This is our culture, our moment. Go Cougs.
Is that
I
what
just-
he said?
Huh?
It feels like what he said.
Isn't
I don't know
that?
that mine would get us there.
Okay, so no, I've got yours up.
Wow, that
So
was good.
Yeah. So what did I do there? So I want to talk through kind of my thought process on why I prompted before we jump into yours.
Yeah.
I know that the AI algorithm has been trained enough on University of Houston data that all I'd have to do is tell it to think about all the things that it knows about the University of Houston. So that's why I started my prompt with 2 questions, because in the process of answering those 2 questions, it will now like bring up all the things that it knows in its corpus of data. So I don't have to like fill in the things that make its response a little bit magical, where it's like it uses René Couture's like fire in your belly type of prompt or response.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to allow its imagination to be based upon the things it already knows about me. And I don't have to tell it, or not know about me, but knows about the University of Houston and the University of Houston basketball team. So
I didn't even think about that.
that was just my methodology.
It's gonna know stuff about.
Yeah. All right. So you've got yours up here. Let me pull yours up. All right. So I aim to create a 3-minute hype video for the University of Houston, UH, ahead of March Madness. This video should compile news clips highlighting their excitement about our performance in the tournament. Incorporate our culture terminology. Okay. Question for you. Now, do you believe that this is going to give a narration?
No.
No. This is going to give you an outline on how to make a hype video. So as long as like you know it, like if you understand like what the outcome's going to be, because I can tell you this is going to try to explain to you, hey, it's going to say that's a great idea, or here's a straight because I have a
whereas you asked for a script, like a monologue.
Now, what would be
They're
great?
not wrong.
Okay, now here, this is I'm so excited because this would be something that I would do. At the end of this, I'm going to say, so we'll let it write it all out, and we'll kind of go through
We're Houston strong, baby.
Again, I don't ever even read these things. So if I was trying to take your method to get to this, I think this is actually a great method. It just takes a few more times. So what I would do is I would say, I think there a narrative that I write out to be narrative.
That's so cool that he's in the NBA.
So give me some feedback on my prompt that I just wrote.
I know that you think you're asking me a question, but I don't know that I know enough. You saw what my prompt was. I feel like I don't know enough to give you feedback on how you.
Just like when I went to the next step of like, hey, now I know my narrative, and I've got the context window that has already like written what this will be. So the script that's already been written.
Yeah.
I now know that the next step that I need is a narrative over this. So
yeah, to overlap it. And then I like that you put remember hype.
I don't know. I just thought it was fun.
No, it is fun. We're not done. Did you want to read what they said?
So it's 3 minutes of what they said. That's a lot, but we can read it. Opening montage, fast-paced clips showcasing highlights from the season, dunks, 3-pointers.
Well, no, just read the narration part.
Narration. They doubted us. They overlooked us. but we rise stronger than ever. Cougs, it's time to eat them up. I love it. They already know the context of what is
Whose
the University.
house?
Whose
Cougs
house? Cougs'
house.
house. Houston's got the grit to go all the way. Defense wins championships, and nobody does it better than Houston. Oh wait, these are like snippets
The
that
news
other
clips.
people would have.
Narration
News scripts,
by
news
Jamal.
clips.
Well, you missed it.
All right, where did I miss one? I scrolled through these too
Yeah,
fast.
111.
All right, every drill, every practice, every game, we built something special here. Our blood, our city, our sweat, our city. Man, this is a really good hype video.
We did a great job together.
So, because it's like this emotional pivot, clips of
Mhm.
intense emotional moments from the season, close games, overcome adversity, brief news snippets. So it's like how do you what do you put on the screen as Jamal is narrating this? Overlay crowd noise, chant, eat them up. So this would be at like a year from now when AI video is ready.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
would throw this into it, and it would create the video that's associated with these narratives. So narration by Jamal. It's not just a game, it's who we are. From third ward to the world, our spirit can't be broken. I love that it's like picking up all these random things.
Yeah.
We step on the
Whose
court with
house?
fire in our hearts. We're not just playing for ourselves. We're playing for everyone who's ever called Houston home. March is ours. Cougars, our legacy starts now. Eat 'em up.
Whose house?
Final fade out chant from crowd. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs!
Oh
Does that
man,
make you want
that's
a
just
Coug salute, man? Just want a Coug salute. Mm.
I have no idea who's watching this. They're the don't even know who we're talking about. So University of Houston had a fan video. We want to recreate it. So I thought that was just a really cool thing.
That was fun.
Sydney. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I have another fun thing that I would like to do.
Let's do
So I told you that just like over time, I send myself messages on Instagram, and
Mhm.
I'm like, these would be good for if this then what, and then I never find time to include it in our videos
Mhm.
because I'm too nerdy about the other stuff that I want to talk about, and I never get to the fun stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of these I haven't I'll send it from my personal account to our if this then what
Yeah.
Instagram account. And so I don't ever rewatch it. And I was like, it would be fun if we just had a day where we just like kick back and like watch these things. And like I
I
feel
love
like
it.
this is perfect for today when we're going live. So
It is.
let
We should do this like once a month.
I think I would enjoy that.
Mhm.
I think I
Next
would
time I'll
enjoy
bring
that.
popcorn.
Okay. So I have no idea what is in any of these Instagram videos because once I send them to myself, I'm like, I'll go rewatch them at some point. So I know that it's somehow AI related, but I don't know to what degree they're AI related. So let's go see what I thought was important or funny to send.
That's pretty wild.
So Florida now has this.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
That their goal is that eventually someone's going to be able to just put the groceries in your fridge for you and you don't have to do a thing.
The online supermarket.
They have 1,000 robots moving around. It's so cool. So it's basically a center that has that inside it. So when you order a Kroger grocery, one of those little robots is picking your groceries up and putting them into the truck. Cool.
And do they service what? Tampa Bay?
They from that facility they can do all of Central Florida.
Whoa! From
It's-
one facility,
It's
they
bananas.
so they can service millions of people.
Yeah,
From one centralized facility.
from one facility,
and it's in Groveland, which is like near Lakeland.
Yep. We're just evolving. We're just becoming more and more efficient with the way that we operate as a civilization. And so, sometimes that means it's a something like this. Sometimes it's automated vehicles. Sometimes it's AI that's doing things. And it's just it's a cool time to be alive and working in the real estate space, because the real estate space has to house everything that's going through there, and you have to figure out what's the new puzzle today.
What?
Wow. It's the modern day milkman.
Man. Yeah. No, I think that is so fascinating. Because it is a glimpse into this is iteration one, and you know that iteration one is most likely going to make money. And so when it makes money, when they finally figure it out, iteration 2 through 10 is going to be like in my backyard type thing. Like it's coming to a world near you. So I love that. So, all right, let's see. Does it prompt it?
$100 if you can prompt this into existence, said Brodsky. And that's what he got. Brandon McConnell got close with V0, nailed the border gradient, actually. Dominic Schultz, on the other hand, tried it with cursor closer, but Santos did the best, and he used V0. So Brodsky upped the challenge. Prompt this into
This
existence.
is about website.
Gauntlet with a valiant effort using Gemini, but no dice. But Wirecat got closer with only 3 prompts in Claude. It's pretty good. However, Jay from Vercel demonstrated how a tiny bit of custom CSS can go a long way. Designing interfaces that look handcrafted with AI tools is still hard. That's why I love seeing prompt challenges like this toggle animation from Kabarza or this loading state challenge from Tom Johnson. It's not easy yet, but it's getting better. And all thanks to designers who are willing to try, like Daniel Sands' animated cards from a single prompt in Claude. If there's anything I've learned from last week's Build Wars, it's that the tools are good, but the designers are going to make them better. $100 if you can prompt.
That is like all of my Twitter, by the way. Kind of like does it prompt type of things. And so I think something that I sometimes struggle with is like I follow enough people that are doing these types of challenges all the time where I'm like, oh, it takes them 3 prompts to get to like a really like professionally designed website or like this like one kind of card aspect of this. And so I'm just like bombarded with people that are doing it in 3 prompts. And then I go and like talk to somebody that's like sometimes challenged to rewrite their email in a professional way. You know what I mean? Like that's and it's such a wide variety of people that you interact with. And it's difficult because I feel like our world is in such different places right now. And you've got the people that are on Twitter for funsies creating websites that are super high professional. And you've got some people that I think somebody on one of our YouTube says that nobody should be looking at AI because it's crap. And I'm just like, I don't know how to interpret that. So
like what?
Okay. Any thoughts on that one?
I know I need to get better at prompting. That was one of my uses this week. Was to help me be better at prompting by forcing me to not edit verbiage that ChatGPT kicks out to me. As easy as it would be to click in and edit it yourself or just copy what it gave you and just paste it into Word and edit it from there. I am like focused on trying to get better at prompting it, like understanding what it responds to and stuff to try and get it to where I want it to be. So I've challenged myself with that this week of how I use it at work. What
do you think you've learned from it? From that kind of just that challenging of, because obviously you're doing it for a reason. You're kind of doing some scientific method of like, maybe I don't have to give it this way because I keep doing it that way. So let me start doing different methods. And I feel like that's always going to give you like the best results. It's just being fun, like having fun with it and doing the same, like what we just did with Jamal Shed's narration, where it's like, okay, if I'm Sydney, I'm thinking kind of bigger picture and I'm going to write, I want the full script first in my context window. And then I want the full, none of the script, but the full scene edits and the full like what's going to be happening in the background so that it has the best context to write Jamal's narration so that it matches what's happening on the TV. Whereas mine, I'm just like, I'll make the videos match his verbiage. Like, I think the hardest part of this, the most magical part of the advertisement was Jamal's actual words versus what was on the screen. And so it's like that aspect of questioning, all right, this is my goal. What are the 5 different ways that I could get there? And then what's like the most optimal? And sometimes you get down to like 2 and you're like, okay, I'll just do it both and see which direction actually works best. And that's actually how you learn how to use ChatGPT or any AI model, is just trying to get the same thing in like multiple different types of ways, because you'll realize that some ways are just better.
Well, one of the things that I'm learning is to have it question itself.
Okay.
That's been a big thing. Like, I've noticed that ChatGPT really can be a yes man until you challenge it. And then when you challenge it, you'll find that it does admit to where it could be better and stuff. Because I do think there's a certain level of ChatGPT trying to just improve what you write rather than really just be devil's advocate and think, wait, are we even saying the right thing to begin with? So that's something I've noticed. It's been interesting.
I learned this from Tom Bilyeu. Again, biggest fan. But he talks about making a custom GPT where the instructions, or even changing your system prompts. So when we talked about going in and customize it, like doing your custom GPT, changing your system prompt to say, act like my best friend who wants nothing but my success. But success means you have to challenge me when appropriate, and don't always just agree with me, but agree with me when it matters. And giving that at the beginning of every single one of your prompts, where it's like actually understanding, like, this is how I want you to interact with me. I have actually found that, like, when I'm doing something that is more personally challenging, right, where I'm trying to develop myself, I'm trying to be critical of myself and all that, I feel like giving that as a system prompt, like the prompt before the prompt, is actually really helpful to actually get real feedback and not just makes me feel warm and fuzzy type of feedback. So
Yeah.
Well, cool. So was that your use case for the week?
That was one of my use cases. Yeah.
Do you have another one?
Not really.
No.
So really, it's just, that's how I've been using it with everything. Like, by now, I have my consistent things that I utilize ChatGPT for, and now I feel like it's challenging. The challenge that I've given myself is, okay, I found ways to use it and what benefits me. Now I just want to question it, and in questioning it, challenge it to be better, but also understand more, because I keep thinking about you and prompts. And so I want to better understand what I'm trying to prompt so that I can understand how to prompt better. So that's what this
I think, and I think the more, so last week we talked about ABIs, and we talked about like how everything has to come back to a prompt, because that's how you interact with a large language model, like continuously reminding yourself that all this comes back to text. And it's not some mystical thing out there in the world. It's literally like, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. This is how you're going to react to this. Is the type of information that we're going to get. So we will be reviewing that, because one of our TikTok followers actually asked us a really good question on there, and I really want to go into it. And I think it's actually a great use case, but I want to get dumb for a little bit. And I want to, so last week we were talking about how I needed to start showing. I've always felt like I needed to give the most like complicated of ChatGPT use cases. But the real, I feel like sometimes secret sauce to like how I do the complicated is that I'm just constantly using it on the dumb. Like I'm constantly using it on the simple things in lives, and like not even like it being like super critical of like my like actual like wording of something or those type of things. So um earlier this morning we were I was talking with one of my coworkers, and I was like, yeah, we need to build robots that build robots that build robots. And like what is that thing called that if you um that if you uh it can replicate itself. And
Mhm.
I could not think of this word, but I could describe what the word was. And so I came up with I just was asking ChatGPT. And so one of the things that first caught my attention with chat was that I could ask it very abstract questions, and it would kind of be able to act as my interpreter from the abstract to make simple. And so I asked very kind of these like, what is the machine that can self-replicate intelligently? And so it is that's something that if I were going into Google, I would probably have to like type in self-replicating and like machine,
Mhm.
and instead of asking the question, like, I don't, it's like Google is, you kind of had to know what the answer was before you could really, or like even what answer you're going after. It was kind of difficult. And so chat's kind of ability to kind of interpret. And so I was pretty sure it was the von Neumann self-replicating machines, but I just kind of like von Neumann machine and kind of made it give me um, the examples. And so I thought that that was kind of a dumb use case because it's not something that like there's nothing critical about that. Like there's no like gonna help me in my life or like going to make me a better professional, but I'm just showcasing like my now default knowledge search is now
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Um
Do you
and
know how many
so
times I've asked ChatGPT how long I should bake salmon in the oven at 425 degrees for? Like I
it
just
pro-
default to just messaging it rather than, and I should probably learn to memorize it, but I
well,
don't know.
I man, HEB, if you're listening to this, I absolutely love your HEB app, but you should be able to save directions to the cookbooks that I create on there. And so like if I have an in list that's for a specific meal, I should be able to save the directions to that meal so that I can just like copy my ChatGPT directions so that whenever I have the ingredients list already created and saved, I can just jump into my ChatGPT.
Yeah, do better.
Do better, HEB. When are you even coming out with a chatbot? When is your
Yeah,
Rufus? When
Hubert
is your
E.
Rufus
Butt.
moment? Um, so this is another use case that I did this week. Somebody had posted something on Facebook. It was like, or no, the University of Houston basketball team posted on their Facebook, and somebody had commented on there, like, yeah, they're really good. I like their defense, but they're so inconsistent on offense. And that's such a like a thing for the University of Houston is like anytime there's commentators, they're like, yeah, they're super inconsistent because that's part of our history. But over
Mhm.
time, we've just gotten better and better at offense. And so it's like one of those like things that like triggers me. And I'm like,
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
prove this guy
Come
wrong.
with the facts.
So I was like, go gather the stats and data rankings that would prove this statement wrong. And then I wrote like the University of Houston basketball play inconsistently, blah, blah, blah. Everything I just explained. And I was like, write the comment back to this Facebook comment, give them the team ranking. And then they gave me this output. And
Wow.
I was like, Josh, you're not going to post that. Why are we
Wow,
even
you
go?
wanted it to help you, like, fight your battle. Be
Well,
petty.
listen, I wasn't even going to use whatever output. Like it was like, you know how like you have those like conversations in your head where
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just like, I'm gonna tell that person this. ChatGPT is like my like strategist of like
Yeah.
how to, how
You're
to give
making
the
me think
argument.
of another way I used it this week.
Okay.
So I was on Pinterest. Love Pinterest. That's the only social media I'm on, by the way. Anyone who still thinks I'm on Facebook and I'm never on there, so stop messaging me. But I was on Pinterest and I was scrolling. Trigger warning. Don't look this up unless you are ready to feel broken down. But there is a picture that I came across that was called was it trauma or something? It was a very disturbing photo that your brain almost couldn't grasp what it was. Let me pull up my it was basically like a trick photo. It was meant to mess you up, but it really just like threw me for a loop. And so rather than just sitting in, it gave me anxiety. And it turns out that that's actually the purpose of the photo, that that's what it does.
Okay.
Here it is. I said, I saw the torment photo online. That's what it's called, torment photo online. And I feel like it somewhat broke me mentally. And maybe that's the point of it. Is this a thing? And if so, how can I walk myself out of the feeling it gave me? Said, yes, that reaction is completely valid. Some images, especially ones designed to provoke strong emotions, can have a deep psychological impact. The torment photo, likely the AI generated one with surreal, nightmarish themes, plays on primal fears, discomfort, and existential dread. So if it broke you mentally for a moment, that's likely because it hit something deep in your subconscious. And then it just broke down like why this happens, how to walk yourself out of this feeling. Like, it was just a really it's silly. It's silly, but there like that's the point of the torment photo. And instead of me like trying to explain to JD what I saw, what it made me feel, I know it sounds crazy. I just read through what it said and then I was fine.
Oh
It
my
even
gosh.
told me to breathe.
Oh, man, man, you know what I'm most excited about this is there's you have you ever heard the term death of despairs? Death of despair.
Mm-mm.
So death of despair is actually one of those things where um like you don't feel like you don't have a hopeful outlook on life. And so you it's like your body either like kind of starts to shut down, like you like there's just an aspect of like being hopeful that is like super important to the human
Yeah.
soul, for you to keep going. And I'm so excited for like what this means for like senior citizens, as they kind of like enter the age where like not they don't get as much interactions that they used to get. And like now I have to imagine that there's going to be like some type of avatars or some type of like commentary like chat bot that is going to be for our senior citizens, like where they can share their stories. Like the idea, talking about AI, like businesses that I would love to create, is like if you had like a telephone booth where just had one button when you walked in, and it knew who you were based upon your face, and it recalled all the previous conversations you've had, and it could just ask you a question about a specific day in your life, in your past. And you now have like a recording of like one of your grandparents like telling a random story from their life and having a conversation with a very like active listener the entire time, and just being able to like what that would mean for somebody that is in a retirement home to feel like they're being asked questions and like being like led down that path, and like being able to share that story, and then what that might mean for their kids. And
Yeah.
it's almost like this, like it's who do you get to pay for it? Like those like like, and you're just like, I'll pay for it. I'll pay for my grandparents to have a chat bot with them. Like
Ooh. Yeah.
I'll do that as a grandson. Um, and then you kind of have this memory file of all the video files that you're
That's so cool. Because I
yeah.
had a business idea that I've talked to JD about it, where I would love, because one of the things with losing people is the things that you wish, the stories that know you'll never hear, right? And I love the idea of, I met this guy at a networking event that does painted portraits, self-portraits of people.
Mhm.
And I thought how cool it would be to, because a lot of times it's elderly getting their self-portrait to pass down to the family, and the videos doing interviews. And I love asking people questions, and even the harder questions, but if it helps us but feel more connected, I would love that. And so the idea of videoing people nicely set up, like interview style, interview grandparents would pay me to put together. It's like a clips to leave behind for their family. Because, for instance, JD's papa, who's his hero, I videoed him. He didn't know, but I videoed and asked, like, Papa, what was it like to watch JD play baseball on TV in college? Because it'd be
Mhm.
U of H games would be streamed, you know. And I have that videoed of him, or like, what was JD and his brother Jeremy like as a kid, and having that video and having that to show them. So it's just cool that you say that, because I like how it gives the other aspect of giving them someone to talk to also.
Well, I think it would be a
Cool.
really cool, like the idea that you can give a kind of prompt starter to your parents' AI or your grandparents'
Mhm,
AI, and they give you the ability to have that prompt starter,
mhm,
where it's like, I don't know who in my family has sent me this, but they're able to give me insights of something that I might be like, it might be difficult for me to hear, but they can kind of give it anonymously, or like whatever. Like, you give it to like the people in your life that actually care about your like best interest in life, and you give them your access key, and every day you get to go to ChatGPT and you say, "Hey, what should I improve on today?" And like it can either give you something that is been um like somehow started and then interpreted through ChatGPT based upon how it knows you, and like can give it into you where you're at.
yeah,
Or it can just give you its own like advice based upon where it thinks that you are, and where you're at,
mhm,
and you never know. And you have that as like the setting on there is like, hey, if some one of the people that I've entrusted with this access key is like a little malicious about this, just ignore it and give me your own advice.
yeah.
And so it's
If there's
like,
still a lesson to be learned there, feel free to
yeah,
frame it in a way that, knowing me, I'll be able to take it in a constructive way. Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool. I like that idea
And
too.
And again, it's just like how do you like these different ways of being able to touch the orb, like the engine
The
of
orb.
like what is the orb? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
if I poke the orb in this direction, what's going to happen on the backside? So I I want to segue into, we got a comment on our TikTok that was asking a really good question.
Okay.
And at the end of last episode, you had mentioned that you're like, I think we need to revisit this API thing because I don't think I'm getting it, or
Mhm,
something along those lines. And so I wanted to start with rewatching the video that this comment is on. And so we can kind of prime ourselves on what the context is. And then I'm going to ask if you have any questions to just like start, or I'm going to go straight into. If you don't have any questions, I'll just go straight to the comment
mhm,
with their question. So um, let me share my screen real quick. And let's see last week's video. So what he's talking about is API. So when I've talked about orb throughout this show, I'm just like, API is literally you've got to think of it as a waiter that's taking your order back to the kitchen, right? You are
mhm,
just touching the engine in different ways to get different outputs. So all these companies that have like AI as like part of their name, they're touching the same engine just in different spots of this warp. And every time they
okay,
touch it here, something else different comes down over here. So APIs, they give developers, they give programmers the ability to touch the orb in different kinds of ways.
mhm,
And so when they talk about giving developers new tools, they're saying, hey, we added like a turbocharger to this engine, and the only way you get to flip the turbocharger on is touching it in this way. And they just give the tools to the developers to be able to do that. And so when you understand the APIs, the way that the waiter is communicating things, you start to be able to predict how the world is going to start touching that orb in different ways. Okay, so should we jump to the question, or do
Yes.
you have any commentary for yourself?
Go ahead and jump into the question.
All right, let's do this. All right, so it was asked. So it's still difficult for me to process like how the agent learns what is on the menu and telling guests what is today's special. So let's like focus on that question at first. So if we interpret is let's review this. How the agent learns, and I'm going to interpret his question as the agent as the waiter, the API that is going between learns what is on the menu. So what is on the menu is all the recipes that the foundation models have back at the company, and that's what's on the menu. So the APIs is, if I'm probably misinterpreting what he's actually saying, but so I want you to poke back at me. So I am interpreting this as I need to learn how the agent, the waiter, is telling the person at the table what's on the menu, and then maybe giving some recommendations on what today's special is. And so the API, it is just the full set of tools. So that's all the things that's on the menu. The waiter is just getting informed by which, like, the customer is pointing at this and they'll say, I want this well done. Right. That sounds so like silly, but like there's actually so I'm gonna ask us for I'll go into my further explanation when did what I just said make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Teach it back to me.
I mean, I guess this, to me, this just feels like, what is the cloud? And I'm
What
like,
is the cloud?
don't worry about it. Does that make sense? So,
It absolutely
so the reason
does.
why I'm pausing is like, I don't even
I-
know why we care enough to ask ourselves this. Just trust that it
So-
learns what's on the menu and it will be able to tell you. Maybe that's wrong of me, or just different ways of thinking, but
no, I think that's actually that's something that I struggled to communicate in the last episode, is connecting more to the why this matters. Because to you, this just sounds like you nerds just go figure it out. Like that's
just be glad it does it and keep going.
keep going. But the why that this matters is, I feel that there are a lot of people that are caught off guard by what AI can do. So the reaction the world gives 3 to 6 months from now, I guarantee you, will be disproportionate to what reality is today. The moment the API dropped, you instantly are able to predict how companies will start to integrate this into their AI tool. So
because
if you're
about it and its abilities,
because you know what tool they just gave the developers, and they gave all the developers the exact same tools at the exact same time. But you have all these AI companies that are just, again, they're touching the engine, they're touching the orb in just a different kind of way, and they're able to do all different types of things. And so just connecting it back to that why of just, how can I not be caught off guard by where AI is going whenever things actually start to get given to me, when I get the tool that reads in a podcast? that shouldn't have been a shock to me because I know that there's an audio output API. And and I also like, it's like combining all the different tools that they have. And
Mhm.
I know that they have two different voices. And so if they've got two voices, they can get two AIs to talk to one another. And so it's like, hey, if I understand the tools that the API is allowing for, I
Mhm.
now know how developers will start to use this thing. And so that's the only reason this matters. Like, I don't
Okay.
expect anybody to go and like learn how each one of the APIs actually like coded, like what's the coding
Mhm.
of this? Because truth be told, APIs are dumb. Like writing the actual like handshake between two systems on its surface, you understand why it exists because you
Mhm.
kind of have to have like, again, you have to have the kitchen and the menu be talking about the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so you have to, or even the person being able to, it's like if they handed you the menu and it was all like Asian food and they're like, hey, no, I really want fried chicken. Like the menu, they're telling the waiter that they want fried chicken. The waiter is just going to go back there as an API and diligently tell the system that they want fried chicken. And they're like, this is an Asian shop. Why? Why are you
Yeah.
telling me that we want fried chicken? Um, so again, once you just know the tools, the
You can start
how,
to predict what
you can
all of
start to
it look
predict
like
it.
together. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I
But
get what
I
you're
think
saying.
also, I don't expect anybody to learn how to do API coding because I feel like API coding is going to go away at some point. It's just
Mhm.
it's one of those things that like if you can just have two LLMs tell each other what the options are,
Mhm.
then like they can just write the API code themselves. It's like it's one of those things that's like a relic of previous Gen AI. There's going to be a
Yeah, it's
company
almost
that
gonna be
comes
like a
out.
deregulation of sorts.
Yeah.
Like, it's just gonna be open.
It's just going to be like APIs. Like I am just like I want to connect to that company. I trust that company. I've signed agreements with that companies. Here are our two systems. Let's give them access to another business idea. Is just a business that just sits between all the connectors and just tells people how to write APIs, which
Mhm.
has historically just belong to consultants. Like so consultants, if you didn't know how to write an API, you paid consultants to write the kind of the coding behind it. But now there's going to be some company, I guarantee you, that will develop some method to generate this
Mhm.
themselves. So all
What's
right, so let's
interesting
go
is I
to
did have to deal with an API user for HR. Our payroll system wouldn't talk to our HRIS system. So I had to sit in a lot of meetings with the two um, companies, my IT
Mhm.
team, and a consulting firm for API usage so that they could code how the two will talk to each other,
Okay. So you
which was
have
interesting.
real how many hours did you spend going back and forth?
Too many.
Too many. And you're just like, dude, this field is this. This field is that. This field is this. And this is what happens when I change this status to that.
Mhm.
And it sounds so bonkers to anybody that doesn't know how to code APIs because it's like, guys, just look at my screen. It's the most obvious
It's
thing of
right
what
here.
should happen. And so first things to know is that consultants get paid by how hard you think their job is. So
Mhm.
just keep that in mind. That is how consultants make their money.
Mhm.
And so when you have that in context, you kind of start to get why they might make something a little bit more complicated. But imagine a world where you could just screen record your systems and have all those same like questions asked to you throughout your screen record and you're just answering it just like you would like it's like interacting with you just like the consultants
Mhm.
and then the other person that you're trying to connect that system to just screen records and gets asked all the questions that they need to get answered and then those two screen recorders just have a baby. It's called an API.
Yeah.
Like that is going to be our future, and I guarantee you, there's going to be some company that comes out with it. And I'm sad that I'm not interested in building that because I feel like that's so needed
I
right
was literally
now.
about to say, why don't we do it?
Hey, I'm all in on that retirement thing. So
We might have
if
to
you
talk
want to go
some.
if you want to go figure out the telephone booths and I'll figure out the AI stuff, I'll do it on my side as the side hustle. I'm
Imagine
not
the
afraid
gift
of it.
we'd be giving to society for that.
Man, you touch my heart. All right, so let's continue down these questions.
All right.
All right, so we now know that the menu was actually provided by the kitchen, which the kitchen is the foundation models, that's the OpenAIs, that's the Anthropic, so that we know that the menu's there. We know that the waiter is just been given the menu of all the tools that the purchaser can buy, and they've got to make sure that they do what is on that menu. Okay. Another way that you could interpret this question, based upon I've read the rest of the questions, is that they're really asking what is difficult for me to process is how the client learns what is on the menu and telling the waiter what is on what they want. And so like I'm kind of being loose with the interpretation because I'm going to read these next two questions. So getting the agent to actually perform the API request and know what to ask with the API and to limit those requests to use as few tokens as possible. I don't know. It just hurts my brain to understand that part. Hurts my brain as
Same.
well. Same, bro. Same. Okay. So, what I want to call out with that specific question is do you know the concept of first principles thinking? Do you know what that means?
No.
I'm sure you've heard some business bro say it. We got to think in first principles. Okay. So when you think in first principles, you break down a problem into like the most simplest aspects of that problem. And you
Okay.
say, what is the things that I have to figure out to actually answer this one question? So what it is like we take the complex and we make it simple. And so complex, when you start to think that way, you have complex ideas become just a group of simple ideas. And simple ideas kind of make up these more complicated, more complex, nuanced like concepts. And so if you know the 10 simple questions you have to answer, then you know how you get to your one big question that you have to answer. And so how do you get your client to like ask the right question and like limit when he says tokens, that's how much he's getting charged for actually like building this. So I'm going to interpret these questions as this guy is out there trying to build an AI application and he's trying to limit his costs. And so he's like, how can I continuously get good results back to me without having really complicated prompts? Because the larger the prompt is, the more I have to pay for that large compute. And what I would advise them is say, well, you don't have to solve the hard problem every single time. You just have to solve the simple problems every single time.
Hmm.
And so when I build my big hard problem, I can break that down into 50 really small problems that I can use a smaller model for, a cheaper model, to build up to my bigger answer. And so when you do it this way, you can start to use it's less compute, right? It's more processing time. Like you're taking more time to answer the harder problem because then you have to use another bot to put all these simple answers back together. Um, but it's a lot cheaper to actually develop that. Okay, Sydney, I just rambled. Um, Take my nerdum and make it simple.
I mean, basically, what you're saying is in your prompts, to, rather than focusing on the big picture, big package, break it down into small bite-sized pieces. What are all the different parts that are going to play a role in that big picture? So
Yep.
it's almost like a theory for life.
Well, that is literally first principles thinking. So like if that, like from like a theory basis, like that is what people mean when they say first principles thinking. So what is the complicated thing that we got to figure out? What's these simple pieces of that complicated thing that if we could just answer those simple pieces, then we can figure out the complicated thing. Okay. So that would be my answer to that question of, all right, how do I get this thing to consistently give me the same results with like less expenses? And it says, even a simple database right now, I have fast API, have different API calls. Chat comes from users, sends requests to API packages up, sends it to AI, didn't get what was needed, tokens wasted. Again, I don't know how you found our channel, but
Glad you're here.
glad you're here. So I thought they asked some good questions. I want to encourage that person to just break down their complicated thing into predictable, simple things while using some of the tools that the foundation models get. So one of the tools that you get is temperature, and another tool is called top P. So temperature is, think of it as like your how creative. And I'm probably getting this wrong. I probably shouldn't comment on this, but it's basically the creativity and the predictability. So if you want it to be way more accurate, then you like put this up. But if you want it to be more creative, you put this up. And so sometimes those things conflict with one another. And so basically you're trying to just like tell the AI, hey, I want this to be really logic based when you're answering this question. Because it's a very like simple black and white question. I don't want you to think and imagine some random like 1 + 1 is somehow 3 type of experience. It's always going to be 2, and I just want you to think in that manner. So you kind of get these different tools that's in the API. And so that part I don't want everybody to understand, but what I do want you to understand is that as these like AI themes come out that are going to be scary, because they're going to be scary, just know that is what is actually happening on the background is that somebody has literally hard coded a prompt that is like a simple task that's being completed in a big task. And it's like they have gotten good. And so like the best AI companies have just gotten really good at prompting really well to lower their cost. And so as long as you know that, you start to realize like, hey, all this stuff is just like words that I'm touching an engine with. And the engine is coming back with me with words, and I'm interpreting those words in this manner. And that's literally all AI companies are, because it's a large language model. So that's my nerd corner, Sydney.
No, I
I'm
mean,
sorry you
it
had to
makes
experience
sense.
that.
What's funny is I mean, all I'm reminding myself is it just reminds me of all the times I got asked what a cloud is, and it just shows our different personalities. So some people are like, yeah, man, I'm all in it with Josh. Another person is, with our listener that commented, I get it. I asked myself these questions too. And I know there's some people out there that think the way that I do. And it's just, if you think that AI, there's not room for our own individuality to create value out of AI. Like I know people have this angst about making sure that they capitalize off of AI or they're using it smarter than people. If anything, this should just show you all the different directions you can go in with AI, which means there's so many different possibilities. And because our brains work differently, just find value in how different our brains work. That's what I'm finding. I think it's great that you think the way that you do. I think the way that I do. And it just shows you, like I said, just shows you the spectrum of possibilities that there are.
Yeah. I do every time you have an AI tool that you use, just ask yourself, what are the prompts that they are using to get to this? Because everything is a prompt. It's literally just different ways of doing it, right? They use a different tool on the menu, but everything still has to go back to a prompt. And there's some other, again, there's some other systems, and we've talked about our RAG models and vectorizing and like indexing, and there's a bunch of other things that's kind of like, how do I give proper context within that prompt? And that is a lot harder to do. And like, I remember our episode on ontologies and like how nuanced that can be. And so just recognize that like everything does have to come back to the simple. Like the outcomes are always complex, but the simple is always making the complex, especially when everything has to be based upon with the prompt. So, well, Sydney, so this was live.
Yeah.
If
How'd we
somebody
do?
wanted
How many
to,
people are on?
well, nobody's on right now.
Oh, okay.
Well, we just gained one.
What?
Hello, people. So, people can still send a live video. If you were recommending, who should somebody send a live to?
Someone that thinks differently than you.
Hmm.
And then you could start the conversation around, how do you interpret this video?
Yeah, I love that. I would send it to somebody that wants to start a I would send it to somebody that has a heart for senior citizens and wants to make their life good, and
Yeah.
and reach out to me. I'll help you with the AI stuff, and you can help me with the telephone booth stuff, and we'll give some goodness into the world and give some chatbots to some senior citizens. Well, if you got something out of this episode, please like and subscribe. We definitely appreciate it. We do work pretty hard to get these shows up and going. We do like to just have fun though. I think Sydney, next time I'm gonna have a beer. We're gonna have a beer while filming this episode, and we're just gonna relax.
We should.
Absolutely. Well, if you got any value, please like and subscribe. Send it to your favorite person, and then stay engaged as we keep exploring the ideas shaping the future work, innovation, and business. We'll catch you next time on If This and What, where curiosity fuels action and what ifs turn into what's next. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Go Cougs!